It is coaching change season, and there's been some major movement with coordinators on both sides of the ball this month. Alabama, Miami, and Georgia all made major moves at the coordinator position in the last week. So I'm bringing on Jesse Simonton, coaching insider here at On3, to talk about the latest. Jesse, let's start at the top. Alabama hires Tommy Rees on offense, Kevin Steele on defense. Kind of opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of age and experience. Why did Bama go with a young OC hire and on defense a very experienced defensive coordinator?
Well, I think Tommy Rees is certainly an interesting fit for Alabama, but Nick Saban is going to run Nick Saban's offense. And so that was important when he was interviewing multiple candidates, Joe Moorhead and some of the other guys he spoke with. You know, they were going to come in and kind of bring their flair. That's not exactly what Nick Saban's looking for. Whoever the coordinator is the last few seasons, whether it was Bill O'Brien or previous guys like Brian Daboll, they come in and they run the terminology that Nick Saban wants to run. Tommy Rees was cool with that. He's going to obviously help Alabama adapt in terms of becoming a more pro-style, heavy run fit in terms of less RPO. And I think that was attractive to Nick because Nick wants to get back to leaning on people a little bit.
How long do you think Nick Saban had his eyes on Tommy Rees? How does a hire like this come about?
Oh, this is certainly someone that I think he's spoken with, spoken around about for multiple people. I think it's notable, too, that Brian Kelly wanted Tommy Rees to come to LSU a year ago, and Nick Saban got him to come to Alabama. That's not nothing. Those are two of the better coaches in the sport. The move, notably was better for Tommy Rees because of the track record of recent Alabama OCs, Kiffin, Sark, Daboll. All these guys are head coaches now. That's something that Tommy Rees wants to be in the next couple of years.
Right. And we've seen where the Bama OC job can take you, like you're alluding to. Who wouldn't want it? But on paper, this is a lateral move. It's OC for an OC. Do you think this was a tough decision for Tommy Rees leaving the school that he played at, where he got his coaching start at? And to further that question, should it be a hard decision when Bama comes knocking?
No, yeah, I would actually disagree with you a little bit that it's a lateral move. I think, the fact that at Alabama you're immediately competing for championships, that's something that's very attractive to Tommy Rees. It was, I think, a hard decision to leave his alma mater, but it's been kind of well reported that he had two places circled, that if these jobs ever came open, Alabama or Georgia, and ironically Georgia came open about a week later, but he wanted to go to one of those two spots. Nick Saban came calling. Again, he's not going to be coming and running the Tommy Rees offense. This is Nick Saban's scheme, but he is coming to kind of put his flair on it, and that's making Alabama honestly more balanced. They've gotten too pass happy the last couple of years, and they want to get back to kind of grounding and pounding a little bit, controlling the clock, and kind of helping out a defense that's gotten notably smaller and kind of less havoc-proof the last couple of years.
I agree with you. When Nick Saban comes calling, it's a no-brainer. But I guarantee you there's Notre Dame fans watching right now that do feel that that's a lateral move. Let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. Kevin Steele couldn't get it done last year at Miami. Why is he an attractive hire for Alabama this offseason?
Yeah, this is kind of a situation where last year was definitely just a bad fit for Kevin Steele. He had not the greatest personnel, dealt with injuries, and the fact that he runs a complicated scheme with difficult terminology to learn, that's not going to be an issue at Alabama. He and Nick Saban have been speaking the same language defensively for 2 decades. And so, this is his third go-round. And I think this is clearly a move on Saban's part to kind of bridge the future with the now. Austin is a young, up-and-coming guy. Southern Miss defensive coordinator, was really good. Got hired on staff before Kevin Steele was brought back to Alabama. He's going to be the linebackers coach. I think he's a future defensive coordinator in waiting, much like Kevin Steele mentored Kirby Smart 20 years ago at Florida State, very next year in Alabama. I think you're going to see a similar situation. Steele gets his pension, works a year or two at Alabama, and then hands those keys to either Austin Armstrong or they bring Jeremy Pruitt back.
Before we move on to Miami, I need you guys to do me a favor. Subscribe to the On3 YouTube page. We are your place for all the latest coaching change news, recruiting developments, and we have a ton of college football coverage as well. Hit that subscribe button for me. All right. Moving on to Miami, South Florida. Last year around this time, Miami hired the Broyles Award winner, Josh Gaddis. He lasted one season in Coral Gables. In comes Shannon Dawson from Houston. How did this come about? Why is this an attractive hire to get Miami's offense back on track?
Well, you can't do much worse than what happened last year in down in Coral Gables. I mean, it was a tire fire. The Hurricanes averaged 17.9 points per game in ACC play. I mean, that's just abhorrent, and that's with the likes of Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback, who was an All ACC preseason selection the year before. Had kind of taken the league by storm. He obviously dealt with some injuries. They had some offensive line issues, but it was just a disaster. There was chemistry problems throughout the entire staff, including Josh Gaddis. And so I think the fact that Dawson comes in, he spent a long time under Dana Holgerson. The air raid, it's something that I've really advocated, that I think Mario Cristobal needs to kind of embrace modernizing his scheme, his offense. He's been too much, predictable in recent years in terms of kind of putting the governor on the thing, conservative, too much run focused stuff. Let it loose, let it rip. You have these athletes in South Florida, put some receivers out there. He obviously has shown he can go out and recruit these kids. Now he has a coordinator I think he can pair, and suddenly somebody I think who will rejuvenate Tyler Van Dyke's career.
Yeah, and talk about rejuvenation. On the defensive side of the ball, Lance Guidry comes in to resuscitate the defense down there in South Florida. Can he replicate the success that he had at Marshall last year, where he captained really a top-performing defense in many categories?
Yeah, and he's a guy that last year obviously was his probably banner season in terms of a coordinator. Marshall was one of the best in the country, number one in third down defense, awesome in terms of takeaways, sacks, negative plays. But he's had a history at all of his stops, from McNeese State to UC or UAF, and then now down at Miami. We'll see what happens, of just creating havoc, of basically turning his athletes loose and letting those guys get field and make plays. And so, again, Cristobal has upgraded the personnel on the defensive side of the ball. They've signed some good impact transfers. They obviously had landed a top 10 recruiting class. I think Guidry, maybe not the name hire that some Miami fans were really hoping for, but he has a really nice resume and track record of success at various stops throughout his coaching tenure.
Did they upgrade? That's my question to you. Did Miami upgrade at the coordinator position?
Unequivocally, yes, on both spots. Unequivocally. The issue for now is just how do they round out the rest of the staff? I mean, a year ago, Cristobal was touting this, 2022 all-star staff, and now almost all these guys are gone. And so Dawson's going to have to hire a running backs coach and a receivers coach. There's more, defensive turnover on the other side of the ball as well. So how Cristobal fills out the staff around these coordinators, I think, will go a long way in determining Miami's success in 2023 and then down the road.
Yeah, what do you make of all the coaching upheaval after just one season? Because like you said, Mario was meticulous. He took his time to make those first-year hires. Now we see a lot of those guys gone, almost a majority of them. What does that mean to you?
I think sometimes this is a great example that change isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes we can say, "Oh, wow, there's the lack of continuity, and that's a lot of movement there," but it just the pieces didn't fit. And so whether Charlie Strong or Josh Gaddis or Kevin Steele, they're not the only ones, But I just think that the group didn't mesh, and that trust and continuity on staff is really important. And so Cristobal, he has a 10-year contract, so he can kind of afford a mulligan. He's taking it now. We'll see if they can, turn out a better staff, in the years to come.
Yeah, something was off last year. Maybe this sparks it. Let's head over to Georgia. Kirby Smart lost offensive coordinator Todd Monken to the NFL. Not really a shocker to anybody, but there was some surprising news when Kirby tabbed Mike Bobo to take the reins of Georgia's offense. Will they skip a beat under Mike Bobo? I know there's some concern out there, Jesse.
I would say that I was not surprised that Mike Bobo was tabbed as Georgia's next offensive coordinator. I think this has been teased about a year earlier when he was, put on staff as a senior analyst. It's going to be hard for them to replicate exactly what they did under Todd Monken. That doesn't necessarily mean this is a bad hire or a gamble by Kirby Smart. It's a safe bet. Again, Georgia's staff has continuity. They have that trust. They have that chemistry by just bumping up Bobo it made a lot of sense. But Todd Monken, I think he really helped change and maybe kind of alter Kirby Smart's perspective on how to view his offensive philosophy. And ever since he brought him in after that 2019 season, Georgia has kind of become a rocket ship. The last 2 years, they've had one of the most explosive, efficient offenses in the country. They on a down-to-down basis, they've just been ruthless in terms of getting that 7, 8, 9 yards, always in the top of the metrics in terms of, again, success rate, yards per play, scoring. Todd Monken was a wizard play caller. We saw it against TCU in the national championship game. So it's going to be hard for Mike Bobo to just step in and do exactly what Monken did. But I do think he'll be able to train rolling with the athletes and playmakers Georgia has.
Yeah, you're right. Georgia's offense is like a rocket ship. So are the concerns valid over the track record that Mike Bobo had at places like Auburn and South Carolina more recently? Because you are handing him the keys to a Ferrari here.
Yeah, and again, I would push back a little bit on that. I have a column on three on this very subject. I think it's kind of an apples to oranges situation. Much like Alabama, Georgia has become a system. The offense that is the system. You're not running the Mike Bobo system at Georgia. You are running the Georgia offensive system, and so it's notable. He's going to come in. The terminology's not going to change. The playbook's not going to change. He'll put his flair and kind of fingerprints on it. But the fact that it's not a whole, rebrand or rebuild, I think it kind of softens the blow a little bit. He's not going to be working with Luke Doty at quarterback like he had at South Carolina or kind of these turnstile offensive lines at Auburn. So.
Ain't that the truth? So I asked you if Mario Cristobal upgrade. I'm going to ask you, did Kirby Smart upgrade at the offensive coordinator position?
Georgia did not upgrade because I think Todd Monken was the best offensive coordinator in the country. So you can only go down from there. But I don't think a safe hire makes it a bad bet.
All right, Jesse Simonton, thanks for stopping in Coach's Corner and dropping all the intel on us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.